Hey everyone, it's Remy again from Random Street Medic. Today we're going to be talking about masks, and we're going to talk about the online debate and some of the excuses that people use to not wear masks, and we're going to debunk two of them, talking about basically the published manufacturers' specifications of the masks themselves, as well as the known scientific measurements of just various elements that you're trying to keep out of the mask or trying to keep inside. So to start with, your mask does one of two things. It's either going to keep things in, so if you cough, it's going to keep things in the mask, and when you talk, it keeps things in your mask. I was like, or when you're breathing, it's filtering. So that's the other thing that's doing is either it's filtering things that are in the environment and keeping stuff from coming in and going into your lungs. So the ones that keep stuff in outside in the environment and prevent you from breathing those things in, those are particulate masks, right here, particulate. And it comes in different variations. They run off of a NIOSH testing, which is an industry standard, which basically says that it either filters a certain amount out at the 0.3 micron level. You'll hear like N95 or P100, and what the N stands for is that something is not oil resistant or not resistant to oil. The R will stand for, partially resistant, and a P stands for fully resistant to oil. And that just has to do with your industry standards. So if you work in a place that has a lot of oil, your mask won't fail because it made contact with petroleum products. The number that comes after the letter in these masks just has to do with the percentage of filtration. So the N95 filters at 95% of the testing volume of the 0.3 micron particles, and the N99 or the N100 or the P100, again, those are just different percentages. So it either filters out the 99% level or it filters out everything at the 100% level, which is actually more like 99.9%. So like P100s, you'll see them sometimes as like, they're called BV filters for bacterial, virucidal filters, or sometimes just depending on like what industry you're in, you use them for different things. So down here we have masks that don't do any particulate filtration, and those are things like your surgical masks or your multi-layered fabric or cloth masks. These aren't meant to keep things out, and it says that on the back or the side of the box, and what people online will like to do is they like to pull like this mind trick thing where they say, oh, well, the side of the box says that this doesn't help with viruses. That's not what the box says. What the box is saying is that you can't use it to prevent yourself from breathing in particles, because that's not what the mask is for. What these masks are for is to make sure that when you cough or when you speak or when you sneeze or do anything with your mouth and nose, that it catches the particles in your mask and it keeps it from entering into the ambient environment. So if you're working in an enclosed space like this room, you really want to make sure that you're keeping things to yourself, because the more things that go out, it doesn't have the chance to escape out a window, it doesn't go out the door, it just kind of hangs around in the space. Whereas if you're outside, just by air current alone, droplet particles will just kind of get pushed around by the wind, so it doesn't matter as much. You really should wear a mask if you're in contact with people, though, just for courtesy and just in case. So part of the argument is that, the virus is too small, so it thwarts the mask because it's only tested at the 0.3 micron level. So this is false for a couple reasons. The first being that the mask will filter out at the 0.1 micron level, and it's smaller. It's just not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed at the 95% rate or the 99% or the 100% rate. Masks like the N95 will still filter at the 0.1 micron level. It just won't be at 95%. It might be 92%. It might be 90%. So it'll have a small drop in its efficacy. But for the most part, we found in the field and through multiple studies that it does, in fact, filter at the 0.1 level. It's just that the industry standard is testing at the 0.3 level. So let's talk about the sizes of these particles, though. So you're right. The SARS coronavirus 2 is small. It measures at approximately 0.5 microns to about 0.1 microns. So it is small. It's smaller than the 0.3 microns that we talk about when we test N95 and particulate masks. So by that idea, sure, those virus particles alone might make it through your mask. But here's the thing. Virus particles don't travel alone. They travel in droplets. So it's very rare to get a virus that is just out in the open by itself. they generally don't survive well in dry conditions. They don't survive well out in the open. So what they do is they travel on droplets. So when you cough, it attaches to droplets of mucus, droplets of water, somewhere that's a moist environment so that the membrane envelope around the virus itself doesn't break down. So droplets themselves are actually greater than 5 microns. So remember when I said that they test at 0.3 microns? Droplets themselves are 5 microns or larger, which means that they are going to be filtered out with an N95 mask. That is an absolute fact. Smaller particles like droplet nuclei, so when you have forceful coughs or sneezes, sometimes when droplets just kind of break down themselves, they break down into smaller pieces. So those are called droplet nuclei, and those are smaller than 5 microns. But that's still larger than 0.3, and it's still larger than 0.1 microns. So at the end of the day, the N95 masks, your P100s, those are absolutely going to filter out droplets and droplet nuclei. Down here, it won't filter out things that you're breathing in, but it will stop things that you sneeze out and that you breathe out, which is the entire point of wearing them. So the point is that they're going to get caught up in the mask and not be out in the open, in the atmosphere or in the environment, wherever you are, whether you're in a restaurant, in your car, at a doctor's office, a hospital, anywhere else. So these things right here, these droplets and droplet nuclei, are still going to get caught up on the inside of these masks. So you're really protecting other people from you. As I said, the coronavirus itself is teeny tiny, small, but it doesn't live out in the open by itself. The reason I include these here is because one of the other myths that people like to come up with as an excuse as to why they don't wear a mask is that, oh, they heard that, this person got hypoxic and went to the hospital. First and foremost, that's not true. I don't think I've ever encountered somebody that became hypoxic due to a mask. I don't think I've ever seen it out in the wild. I don't even think I've read about it in theory. The only article or study I've seen online had to do with a drop of maybe 2 or 3 percentage points on someone's pulse oximetry. So you can live very comfortably anywhere between 94% and 100% of your pulse oximetry. And the study that they showed, nobody dropped below 94%. So all of their test subjects were absolutely normal, even if they dropped 2 or 3 percentage points. There's no evidence of hypoxia. So let's just start with that claim that people get hypoxic because of having CO2 trapped in their mask. So the initial claim is that you can't filter out viruses because they're too small. So if you're going to make that claim, the size or the kinetic diameter of an oxygen molecule is 346 picometers, which comes out to 0.000346 microns. Same thing with carbon dioxide, which is 330 picometers, which is 0.000330 microns. So if the idea is that you can't keep the virus out, you definitely can't keep oxygen out, and you definitely can't keep carbon dioxide in. So what's going to happen is, as more carbon dioxide builds up in your mask, it's automatically going to diffuse out, and this is going to diffuse in. So oxygen goes in, carbon dioxide goes out. That's just how gas works. That's how it works in physics, in the lab, out in theory, and in real life. So back to the real world, it doesn't work that way. You even see these videos where people sticking that meter in their mask, and you hear the things beeping, that the carbon dioxide is building up to a toxic level. That's not what's actually happening. It's measuring the exhaled gas before it diffuses out of the mask, and then it starts chirping off, and then it needs time to reset. So the reality is you still have roughly 21% oxygen, which is normal air, in your mask at any given time, even when you exhale. And there's not enough volume in your masks to trap that amount of CO2 against your face, which you would need in order to actually become hypoxic. So in the end, please wear your mask when you're around other people. Please be responsible with yourself. Please be responsible with others. So as I said, my name is Remy, and this is Random Street Medic. See you on the street.